Everyone, welcome back. I'm Lori Williams. I'm an energy healer, psychic medium, animal communicator, and spiritual teacher. Today I want to talk to you about shadow work, specifically shadow work journaling. I have mentioned this over the years. I've mentioned this a few times, and I've been asked by people, exactly what I consider shadow work journaling to look like what's the point of it, how do I do it, and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to take some time to do a video on it just so I can explain in its entirety of exactly what it is. So personally, I don't like the term shadows. I never have. They're not necessarily, there's shadow aspects, but the truth of it is, it's just things that we haven't brought into the light, essentially. I guess that's what a shadow is, but I think the term shadow work makes it seem a lot more dark and intimidating than it needs to. I know that's the way I felt when I first started, hearing terms like shadow work and people telling me I should do shadow work, and I was like, no, that it kind of seems scary as hell, right? So, and I think it deters a lot of people, unfortunately, because, like I said, the truth of it is, it's just the parts that of us, the unhealed parts of us that we haven't explored yet. That's all it is. It's like the buried parts of us. So, first of all, how do you know when you need to do shadow work? Honestly, if you are triggered a lot, and by a lot, I mean like more than twice a week, I would consider that a lot. If you are, constantly running that reel of I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I don't have value, or I don't know what value I have, if you're constantly running that reel in your mind, you definitely need to look into doing shadow work. If you are still replaying old traumas over in your mind, that's all of those are definitely would be the top three signs that it's time for you to do shadow work. So essentially, shadow work is just taking something that's coming up in your life for you, whether it's an unsuppressed or an unprocessed trauma, or issues with around self-worth, or someone has triggered the hell out of you for the millionth time. You take whatever, I'm going to use trigger as just for the sake of this video, but you take that trigger and you essentially are going to write down, why did fill in the blank, why did this trigger me, why did this experience, why did what this person said, why the way they acted towards me, whatever, what is it that triggered me with what they said or did. And then this is where you get very honest with yourself. And I'm using the terms honest because a lot of people think that shadow work is about beating yourself up. And it's not about beating yourself up. It's not about taking the parts of you that you suppress and be like, oh my God, you're so stupid. Why would you do that? That's adding fuel to the fire. There's nothing healthy in that. It's not about self-blame. It's not about beating yourself up. It's about taking responsibility for who you have been, the things that have gone on in your life, not doing something when maybe you could have. Ultimately, it's forgiveness, whether it's for yourself or someone else. Ultimately, what shadow work is forgiveness, is what it comes down to. So never look at it as though, from a place of, oh, I did something wrong. Even if you're triggered, you're not doing something wrong. This is a subconscious part of you that is coming up to be healed. So the trigger acts as your awareness. This is basically that subconscious mind saying, hey, you know what? This did not sit well with you because you have underlying A, B, and C things going on here. You need to look at A, B, and C things. That's all it is. It's just hey, look at me. I'm here. I'm still wounded. I'm still needing some attention. And essentially that's all that's what you're going to be doing through the shadow work aspect of it. Journaling, and why I choose to journal for shadow work, like I said, is about, first of all, finding out why it triggered, asking yourself why it triggered you. You don't have to know the answer to that. And sometimes, sometimes it's just such a deep ingrained part of who we have become based on the life that we have lived up until this point, that we don't know, or we can't necessarily pinpoint a specific time or instance that has caused us to be reactive in the way that we become when we become triggered. So it's okay to not know. It's okay to not have no clue of where this come from. The thing is that once you become aware of the trigger, and if you can become aware of why you're triggered, obviously you can go in and heal the why. But if you can't, don't just stop there. And I think a lot of people do this. Don't just stop there. What you have gained by recognizing your trigger, even if you don't know where it comes from, you have gained awareness of the fact that you have that trigger. So once you have the awareness that you have that trigger, you can also decide to choose a different way to respond. And this literally just allows you to respond rather than react. It's like, okay, this is how I'm responding. Why am I responding this way? I don't know why I'm responding this way. Okay, is this how I actually choose the person who I am? Is this how I choose to respond to people, or am I reacting? Obviously, you're going to be reacting, or you wouldn't be journaling about it. So you want to learn, so you ask yourself the question, if I was to change this reaction into a response, how would it be different? And that, becomes a lot more valuable to you, because at that point you can take that trigger and realize what's not working for you, choose what you want to do differently, and then because you now have that awareness, is to continue to have that awareness that every time you feel that same trigger coming up, you now know, and you've made the decision to choose a different way of handling or dealing with the situation. So you can't fail necessarily at this. Honestly, the only way you fail at shadow work is if you're spending your entire time blaming everyone else. Shadow work is an inside job. It's deep to the core healing if you let it. But this takes a lot of honesty. It takes a lot of awareness. It takes, honestly, the most thing that it takes the most of is being able to look at the things that you've gone through, or even the choices that you've made. Because let's face it, some of our shadow aspects are because of our own shit. And we need to face that too, right? So what it comes down to is being able to look at all aspects and facets of yourself without attachment, or without, putting a label on it of, oh my God, why did I do that? I was so stupid. Or, oh my God, I really didn't know any better back then. I was so dumb. Or, why would I let this happen to me? Or why didn't this person protect me? And all that other stuff that becomes outside blaming. It's not your job to take on the blame of somebody else. That's not your job. That's not what shadow work is about. Shadow work is literally an inside job. It's taking the things that you have suppressed and bringing them forward, bringing them to the light, so to speak. And once you bring them to the forefront, they're no longer shadow aspects anymore. They're not the big, hairy, scary thing that you have to keep hidden or you have to keep suppressed. That's the whole point of shadow work. Once you no longer have shadows, it's pretty amazing how you show up in the world differently. And a full disclosure, I'm always the person that, explains my part of the journey. I've been doing this work for 9 years. This past week, I actually was diving into shadow work again. Shadow work isn't something I do consistently, and I don't know that anybody does, because I don't know that it's necessarily healthy to do it all the time. But I can tell when I need to, because one of those three things, or maybe multiple of those three things that I was talking about at the beginning of this video, start coming up. Where I'm, easily triggered, or there's thoughts replaying in my mind, or your negative self-talk and stuff like that. So that's my sign always of okay, Laura, you need to sit down, spend a few days, few weeks, few months, whatever it is, focusing on shadow work, and being able to bring these things to the light, because, we're always healing on a deeper and deeper and deeper level. So is there an end to shadow work? I don't know that there's necessarily an end to it, but I think that it shifts. And in my experience, at least, it has shifted. It's not so much, wouldn't even consider it shadow work at this point. It's more of just getting real and just sitting with myself. I pretty much I'm very aware, I'm very self-aware. That's what I have accomplished definitely over the last 9 years, is my ability to be self-aware. But there is still parts of me that get triggered. There's still parts of me that I need to look at, because healing isn't from point A to point B. It's not like a straight line. It's like goes in a circle. It keeps coming back around, and we keep like kind of like peeling back those different layers. So, like I said, I've been doing this work for 9 years, and I still sit with myself, get very real with myself, get very honest with myself. I just don't see it as shadow work anymore because I'm not bringing up the like negative parts of myself necessarily. I'm just really looking at what makes me tick. And that's how I prefer to look at it. Even when I was doing shadow work, I was like I said earlier, like the shadow aspects of us, it almost makes us seem like there's like a good part of us and a bad part of us, and that's not what I want to ever portray. I don't want to portray that to myself. Like if I'm telling myself, well, there's a good part of you and a bad part of you, how is that teaching myself acceptance of the entire being? How am I showing up with detachment if I'm very clearly separating the good and the bad? There's no good and bad. There's just me. Take it or leave it. That's basically how I look at it. I hope this helps you. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me anytime. And I will see you back here next time. Until then, take care. Bye for now.